Hello, everyone. This is Charlie again. It's the same guy, so don't get too confused. This is Charlie Tries to Teach. This is episode 2 because I have a little bit of free time right before I move, and I've got to use it while I still can here. So you see Charlie on your screen, you're thinking, oh goodness, what does this guy want? I'll tell you all about it. Today's episode is understanding what God's existence means. This is a pretty heavy topic that we're gonna get into. I have a lot planned outside of the slideshow to talk about that I'm just gonna hopefully remember in my brainium when we get to certain points. I have a lot of things to say on this topic. It's a pretty personal topic. So let's just jump right into it and get to our first slide. You might be asking me, Charlie, what's the big idea? Don't worry. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it for real. I got you. The big idea of this one is that God's existence reveals two seemingly conflicting truths, and these kind of seem contradictory, but you'll understand that there's kind of a strange paradox as situation here. Number one is that your perspective and experience in life is incredibly small. Like if you're good, if you go on walks and get your steps in and everything, you've got a solid 90 years, hopefully more, God given, but you've got about 90 years. Um, and that's not a whole lot of time in scale of what God's working with here. So here's the other half of this coin here is that you are of incredible specific importance and handmade by God. We're going to focus on that first point for a second. All the information you could learn in your lifetime, if you are hitting those books, you are studying the ancient tomes, everything, all the information you could seek that you want would be inconsequential and crumble in comparison at the thought of a God with an eternal perspective. And especially an omniscient perspective, an omniscient and eternal perspective that looks both ways uh, in time at once and is just has so much more understanding of our universe. And the universe is truly one of the most fascinating and complex creations. Well, it's like it's the creation, you know what I mean? It is just a beautifully precisely made machine. Um and there is a essentially infinite amount of it. Of course, we have the little bubble around Earth of the observable universe based on how much time has passed and the speed of light and some other things. You might be able to tell already. I don't know that much about science. So I'm just going based off of my limited understanding. And that's kind of the whole point, is that our understanding and our perspective of reality is fundamentally limited by time and what we can perceive in our flesh. And that is just not that's just a non-issue for the big goat, the big G. And the universe is just so beyond us and so much bigger than anything we've got going on, and it's truly stunting, mind blowing to think about the scale of it all to me. And so here's a verse that reflects this. We're going to read it together here. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. I want to focus on that part of the verse here. Um, and I think this really fundamentally plays off the point I'm trying to make here, is that in scale of the heavens and all of the creations that God has made, the moon and the stars and everything that He set in place, He is specifically mindful and caring for humans. There is so much out here that is His creation, but you and me are the creation that He has the most that he has the most care for. And that is a kind of honoring title, I think, is that we're kind of his favorite, you know? Um, what does that mean, Charlie? You're asking all the right questions, man. I'll tell you. God existence brings up two truths. We're just narrowing in on the point I'm trying to make here, is that your perspective and lifespan is minuscule compared to the scale of the universe in both space and time. There's just there's just too much going on for us to figure it all out, especially within the perspective we're given in our bodies, and especially in the time we're given, which is not that long, you know? Your time is your time in your flesh is truly precious. And I will hope that if you don't take anything else away from this video, that you hold on to that and cherish that and use it to glorify God and use it in a way to spread love into this world that really needs all the love it can get. There's a relevant verse here in Galatians. I'm always bad at pronunciation. I don't know. That doesn't feel right to me. For in all things were created. For in him all things were created. Things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Now, this has to be one of the most direct verses of the Bible. The Bible has lots of kind of twisted parables, metaphors, allegories, stuff that you really need to think about, and stuff that you could think about in different ways that shapes the meaning in different and based on how you're viewing it. And it's just a very complex document. This is pretty straightforward. We can get this. For in him all things were created. He's not like exaggerating to make him seem like all that in a bag of chips. He is all that in a bag of chips. All things. He is not. There is not a single physical object that we could hold in our hand or look at it with our eyes that has not been designed within him, in him. And there's not even a concept that we could theorize about that he hasn't shown. If it's a negative concept, maybe he hasn't displayed that in himself, but that he hasn't orchestrated, I guess. I'm not sure. But I really want to home in the point of, in him all things were created. That's a lot of things. All of the things is like everything, dude. Like I feel like I'm just talking in circles now. Let's move on. Let's move on. Your significance. You were crafted individually by a God that loves you, the person watching this video, referring to you specifically. That loves you personally and longs to have a connection with. Any guesses? It's that guy. It's that guy over there. Wants to have a connection with you, and that is a heavy statement, I think. Let me read a verse about it, and then I'll talk about what that means to me a little bit more. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he will be with me, and he with me. And I think what this verse is trying to say is that God is already putting in the action to have a connection with you. You might not even be in a place in your life where you even accept the idea of a God. Maybe you do, but you think, if there is a God, I'm undeserving of him. Or if there is a God, he's cruel because of the cruelty of this world that I've been placed in. But despite whatever venom is in your heart, or whatever position in the life you're in, or whatever perspective you're looking at the world, God is already making moves. He's already in action to be with you. You, dog. I gotta be more serious. You specifically. He yearns to be connected with you, which is such a heavy statement because he's putting in so much love. We're going to talk a little bit more about God's love, but he's putting in a lot here. sometimes this is kind of a tangent, first tangent of the video. Sometimes I get in my head that in order to have a connection with God, I am required to do certain things, and that is true to an extent. Of course, you have to follow God's heart. You have to love what love what God loves, hate what God hates. But I thought it in a much more physical sense, or I used to. I'm trying to move away from this mindset, of course, because I'm about to talk to you about how it isn't a good one. That I considered that to have a relationship with God, you had to go to church. You have to be there physically. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to church. Church is amazing. Great people will be there. There's going to be a community that wants to support you. But I was putting a lot of emphasis on it. And I was thinking to myself, ugh, it seems like so much. I need to put in so much in order to have a connection with God. I need to wake up before the services, before the sermons. I had to, make myself look nice. I had to be presentable. My hair's a little bit of a mess now, but if I was going to church, I would freak out, and I'd have to put something in my hair, take a shower, make sure I didn't stink, put on deodorant, brush your teeth, all things you should be doing, mind you. But to me, that just felt like I needed to do this and that. Like even a small thing like going to church in my mind had built up as a long list of things I had to do in order to have a connection with God. And it felt like, oh, I need to put in so much work to have this. When that is not the case, that's why I like this, is that he is, if anyone hears my voice, it's very important in this verse. Because to me, what I envision, there's going to be some visualization in this video. What I'm envisioning when I hear that is that God's not just like chilling on your porch. He's looking through the windows. He's like, Charlie, get out here, dude. Maybe he won't say Charlie if that's not your name. If it is, we're still linked like that. He is actively calling out to you. And so it isn't this long list of tasks that you have in front of you to have a relationship with God. It's really two things. Get up, open the door. And I think that is way easier to do, is that you need to wake up. And I mean this in kind of a metaphorical sense, is that you need to wake up and be aware of your situation. You need to recognize that you are without him. And then you got to open the door and let him in. So you got to recognize there's separation between you, and then you have to close that gap, because he's already trying to close that gap. His effort in this equation is not in question. He is 102% all the time. You just have to give the rest. You know what I mean? And that he's actively making moves to be with you. And you have to wake up and open up the door for him. Here's the issue with understanding what God existence means, is that there are many people out there, some of which very close to my heart, that don't have this, who aren't accepting of this concept. And there's a clash here, because you were made with eternity set into your heart. It's part of the verse that we're going to read in a second, but just hold on to this concept for now, that eternity is set in the human heart. And so I feel like it's ingrained into your being. Every little cell you have is yearning for something. Well, something, we know. It's the big guy, G-O-D, the G-O-A-T. But it is ingrained into your core, essentially, to walk the path that God has made and to live out the story that he wrote for you. It's very personal here. And to reject this idea, to not understand what God's existence means, or to just not believe in God, essentially. When you reject the idea of God, you're also rejecting that path and that story. And you're like, well, that's not me. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't specifically envision this, so let's pass. And you will find yourself replacing your true purpose, which can be an unending amount of things, your true calling, and you'll replace it with idolism, individualism, and other worldly ideas. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. Idolism is pretty simply is when it's your idol is what you are is like the top of your brain's food chain. If that metaphor works with you, well, that's where I'm going to try to make this work. The top of your brain's food chain, the top dog. It's what motivates you to do things in most cases, and it is what you find yourself thinking about a lot. Um, when you say idol, you often think of someone that you look up to, someone that inspires action in you, someone that inspires action in you. Um, and idolism isn't necessarily a bad thing. You can idolize people. There are plenty of beautiful people in this world with beautiful hearts to be idolized and that you can learn from. But there comes an issue when they become the top of your brain's food chain. Let's say you are in a relationship and you are motivated by making your partner happy, which is a good-hearted motivation. I think it's very a normal desire in a relationship is you want your partner to be happy, of course, but it becomes idolism when that thought that role is given to them and they become the top dog in your brain. Um, and what's important, especially in the context of relationships that I brought up now, is that when you put a person in the spot where God is supposed to be in your head, then you are going to probably ruin that relationship because you will put them in a place in your mind that will lead to just bad conditions for you. Maybe you'll think, since they're the top dog, that they can't do anything wrong. And so when they do wrong you and they are hurting you, you will push it down and not take action on it. And you'll just kind of let bad things happen to you, which I don't want for you, of course, whoever you may be. Um, and when you put the person up on a pedestal like this, you create unrealistic expectations for them, and you will kind of disappoint yourself when they fail to live up to that. Because how could they? There's a lot of beautiful people out there that you can learn from, but no one is comparable to the qualities and characteristics that God has and the love that He has for you. There is no one out there who is going to love you the same as God has loved you and as Jesus has proved His love for you. It just can't be compared. There's no contest. And then individualism. I kind of went into a tangent there with the concept of idolism. Individualism is very, very big in the world today, especially what I feel like. I feel like individualism is a huge part of the culture of my generation, the younger people. Um, I feel like people put a lot of emphasis on themselves. And this doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. It is important to recognize your own importance and not to undervalue yourself. Bless you. And that's a very important, but it becomes an issue similar to idolism when you become the top of your brain food chain, when you are your top priority, where your relationships with others will begin to weaken, and most importantly, your relationship with God is going to weaken when you are prioritizing what you want over what He wants, because individualism it it wants you to follow your fleshly heart, worldly heart. It wants to follow your own desires. And the problem with that is, as good-hearted as that might be to like follow your dreams, stuff like that, as good-hearted as that sounds, the human heart, the human condition, I'm not sure. You're not a good person. You have serious flaws that will stray you away from God at some point in your life. And if you're going to follow your own heart, you're going to end up in a ditch somewhere. It's like trying to use a map that is on fire and upside down when Google Maps is right on your phone, dude. I don't know if that was a good metaphor. That was off the dome. That was not something I wrote down. Um, but hopefully you get the visualization, you get the idea. Is that you want to go, you want to find a path that feels like you when there is already a route that was pre-planned for you. And then other worldly ideas I threw on there. You can fill in the blank. Think of something that a lot of people will prioritize in life. It's like success, money. It's a big thing. People love money. It's pretty awesome. I like money, but it should never be number one. Um, just think of something. You think of something. You do the work, man. So something that could be the top of someone's brain food chain. Let's read the verse and then let's talk some more. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. This has a lot of uh relative is very relative? I think that's the right word. This is very similar to the idea I was trying to give you earlier, where we cannot understand what God's going on. His perspective is infinite. And ours is very linear, very limited. Limited is the word I was looking for. It's just not possible to fully grasp the plan that God has had in action from beginning to end. We can talk about what He's told us in the Bible of what He's been planning with the prophecies, other such things, but when it comes to everything that He has done, we have zero clues. It's just beyond us, and there comes a point where you need to accept that things are beyond you, especially God, very much so. Another part I want to single out here is He has made everything beautiful. I think this is similar to the previous verse where He has made through in Him all things were made. He has made everything beautiful. He's talking about all things. When you can find the beauty in things that you might consider ugly now, then you will truly understand where God's fingerprints are in the universe here. There are many things in this world that people will try to say is proof that there isn't a God. That if good God exists, why bad thing happen? Very simple argument, right? If God good, why bad things? Um, and it's a very complicated situation, of course, but this can kind of help you think about it in a different light. He has made everything beautiful in its time. So something might not be beautiful now. Let's say you're going through a breakup or a loss, a close friend has grown distant, or some other issue that is weighing on you. There will come a time that it can be made beautiful. Um, of course, loss is a heavy subject, but there is something for you to gain. There's something for you to learn, and most importantly, you can go on as a changed person for the better, by remembering what they stood for and what they told you and how they lived and learn. And everything can be made beautiful. Cut that out, bro. I don't know if I will. Everything can be made beautiful in time. Uh, if they, that's kind of the end of that thought. Um, we're going to single out another part of this verse. I'm just picking this whole thing apart. Is that He has set eternity in the human heart, and I guess that just goes to the point I was making earlier about this yearning engraved in you to need to the wanting in your heart, um, is set into you from the start. Your brain is fundamentally created to worship, and it is up to you to decide what gets that spot in your heart, in your mind. Hopefully, Hopefully it's that guy. I need to stop just being weird. Hopefully it's God. Um, but in the hypothetical that it's not God, there is something else that is the most important thing in your life, and you need to think about what that is and lock that in, bro. Let me read what I wrote down because I haven't even got to it. I personally think it is truly easy to reject the idea of a godly purpose altogether. Because if you can convince yourself of that, the responsibility falls away. Like, let's say you think that you just happened into this life by chance, that the universe just happened to spit you out of all this time, and there is no true purpose besides what you decide. It's kind of freeing, you know? There's less pressure that way, because even if you do bad things, you can just rationalize and say, well, I don't do bad things a lot of the time, so I'm still a good person, and then move on. I think it's deceptively easy to fall into the idea that you can live life on your own, that you are enough to sustain yourself, and you can live thinking that the meaning of life is up to you to decide. The issue, what's the name of the slide, bro? The issue is that living my life solely off of my own understanding has almost never worked out well for me, like long term. Like when there have been periods of my life where God was not even anywhere near the top of my brain food chain. And I was thinking about other people, thinking about myself, thinking just about negativity, thinking about how disappointed I was in who I was. And that's the kind of loop I found myself when I was putting all the pressure on deciding my purpose on myself. And it made me realize that when I'm in this cycle, when I'm thinking this way, I'm not a very good person. Um, and I kept on doing terrible things. I kept on doing terrible things that I hated. I hated the bad that I was putting in the world, and yet I kept doing it. I couldn't stop. Um, and I kept on doing worse and worse things, and I kept on fighting my given calling, just pulling away from it as hard as I could in this attempt to feel free or this attempt to be satisfied with myself. Did not work. And it made me realize that I'm not a very good person when I'm in this way, when I am this way, and that I need to be protected from myself because left to my own devices, going at it solo, trying to figure out what my life is going to be all about through my own means, I end up hurting myself and hurting others around me, and that's just not who I want to be anymore. Um, that's just not the person I ever want to be like anymore. So hopefully, the foreshadowing is crazy. Hopefully that doesn't happen. The thing is, now that I'm making these videos, if I have like another falling out in my life, I can just like past me can convince current me to lock back in. That's a good reason for making videos. So like I'm there for myself. Whoa, maybe we're relying a little bit too much on ourselves. We had a little bit of a revelation there. Uh, we'll circle back to that later when Charlie's alone. Next slide, please. What do I think about? Okay, let's say I'm on in the background again. You're playing Minecraft. You're playing some video game. And I'm on in the background. It's okay. I forgive you. These kind of videos can be a little bit boring to look at. So if you just want to listen, understand, you just want to hear the soothing sounds of my voice so badly, yeah, okay, I get it, I know. Ugh. What do I think about lock in? We're going to talk about the whole point. Am I trying to satisfy a ingrained internal yearning with other things, with worldly things? There is a concept or individual or something. There's a thing in your brain that's at the top. What is that? Think about that, lock that in. moving on. How do we figure this out? Let's say you needed more time than that. It's okay. Answer these two questions and it will help you think about and help you identify what's the top of your brain food chain here. What am I putting my time into? When you have free time, what do you want to do? What are you actively trying to make time for? Stuff like that. And another thing is to kind of reel in your own head a bit here and think about your own thoughts in a way and try to think, what am I thinking about the most? Let's say you're worried about a friend and you're spending a lot of time, oh man, I hope my friend's all right. What are you thinking about? Um, and this, I didn't write this down, but I'm thinking it. Why are you thinking about this? What emotions do you think are behind this? Like if you're feeling anxious, you're gonna have anxious thoughts, stuff like that. Big question number two: do I understand the weight of God's existence? Especially people who grew up in a Christian setting, that you kind of always have started hearing like stories from the Bible, and you know that there's this Jesus guy and he loves me apparently, and that sounds great, but do you understand the weight of God's existence? Because it should feel heavy. Have you grasped that the creator of the universe, everything, every concept, every story, and every person living out every story on the whole wide world, that guy, that creator, loves you personally? There is a pretty heavy thing that has been going through my mind that I want to share with the class here, is that when I'm in prayer and other times like this, I have been visualizing the crucifixion. And specifically, I imagine through, obviously, my boy's on the cross. And I like to imagine that for a moment he rests his eyes, takes a deep breath, and he thinks about you. He thinks about me. And that he reassured himself in that moment that what he was doing was right because he thought about you. Now, do I actually know what Jesus was thinking about on the cross? I'll tell you a little secret. I don't. But visualizing this has truly made me feel the weight of God's actions. God was fully flesh in the form of Jesus, and he was willing to display his love for you in such a powerful way. And I like to imagine when I'm trying to better myself, do I act according to the worth that God sees in me? See, God knows me. God knows my heart. He sees the wretchedness. He sees the sins, and he loves me. And he sees that I am good, that I have this eternal yearning sown into my heart that wants to be with him, that wants to love what God loves. But I also like to imagine that God sees me. God sees the version of me that is willing to do everything that it takes to seek God's heart, to truly hate sin, to truly hate my flesh, to truly depart from it, and have a new spirit that is instilled in me through God, and to long to be with him. Now, I don't think there's a version of me that is perfect. I think that throughout life I'm going to sin and that I'm going to need forgiveness and I'm going to seek repentance, of course. But I want to become a version of me who is more willing to act in God's heart. That's who I want to be. Now take a second while I'm yapping and try to think, what worth does God see in me that I might not see in myself? What can I do to love what God loves and hate what God hates? How do I act accordingly to the worth that God sees in me? While you're thinking about that, I'm going to circle back to, do I understand the weight of God's existence. We're going to talk about the crucifixion some more. Firstly, I have a verse here on the side we're going to read. It's Romans 1:20. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have clearly been seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. In your heart, God has been revealed to you. I'm not sure if there is anyone who gets this far into a video about God who isn't personally a believer, but if you aren't, I beg for you to look at the universe, the creation, the unlikeliness of it all, the fine details of the formation of the world, and truly, I hope that you see that he is called out to you, that his qualities are echoing throughout his creation, and that he wants you to see him. He wants to have a relationship with you. That's difficult. It is difficult to accept this, because to accept the existence of God would mean to bear this pain that God's existence demands. And it's empathetic. Is that a word? We'll say it is. It's an empathetic pain to recognize that the true God of everything, the universe, he limited himself and came down into human flesh that was no different than mine or yours. And he suffered a brutal pain and death on my account. And the thought that truly deserving for me to be in his place, for me to suffer on account of my actions and the wrongs that I've done to people in the world and myself, it is truly painful to think that he was on the cross. Another verse from Isaiah 53, verse 5 is, he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. By his wounds, we are healed. I'm just going to talk about the beginning of this verse mostly, is that he was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquity. He suffered pain because of us, and he did it for us. But that's a pretty somber message. But the ending of this verse really brings it all together. It's by his wounds that we are healed. It's because he suffered great pain that we are exempted from suffering. In that we can be forgiven because the cost of sin is death. And that he's already paid our debt. I'm going to talk a little bit more about visualizing the crucifixion. Just, you can rest your eyes as I talk about this and try to visualize what I'm saying here. Or just visualize it with your eyes open if you want to keep looking at me. Is as his blood was being shed, he rests his eyes for a moment and he imagines your face. He hears your voice in his mind and he sees what you will become, and he smiles. He sees everything that you were and would be, and he loved it so much that he was sure he would die for it. And there's one more verse on this tangent. Greater love, let me tell you what verse it is. It's John 15, verse 13. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. It's I'm not sure how to dissect it. It's just showing that there is no love above the love that Jesus has shown for you. And that is a heavy weight to bear, I feel. That I have been loved personally so much that that a great suffering has already occurred because of me, in part, long before I was even born. And the weight of God's existence for me is defined by that. It is need and yearning. There is a verse from Matthew, I'm going to read out to you, that truly defines what I'm yearning for here. What I'm meaning by when I say that it makes me feel in need. His master, I gotta tell you what the verse is. Calm down, Charlie. Matthew 25:21. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Matthew 25:21. We're going to zoom in on this verse. Well done, good and faithful servant. It's just such a deep passion that the weight of God's existence makes me feel. I'm going to bring in another banger verse here from John, 1 John 4, verse 19. And I want you to think about the timeline here. As I said that the suffering has already happened in my name for me before I was even born. And 1 John 4, verse 19 is, we love because he first loved us. And it is just that simple. It's before you're even born, God wanted to have a connection with you specifically and wanted you to experience the beautiful things that he created and wants you to see his handiwork throughout the universe, throughout the world. And that is why we love. That's why I love, because he first loved us. We got past the Charlie goes into a tangent here line. I'm not sure how long that was, but it was in fact a tangent. And we're coming to a close here. Welcome to the end of the video again. Today I have a very difficult task compared to the last one. During your prayers at some time this week, today, whenever you next pray, I want you to think and visualize the crucifixion. Jesus was in human flesh that was no different than mine or yours, and he truly suffered great pain in your name for you, and just the great love that he displayed there. And I hope that visualizing this makes you grateful and makes you truly understand the weight of the love that was shown for you. And like the last episode, I'm going to read a verse, we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then the video is going to end. So today's ending verse is Psalm 139, 13 through 14. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. To accept God's existence and understand what it means is to additionally accept that you are made by God. And you have to accept that there is a story God has authored, and there's the story that God has written for you. And this story is filled of the wonders of his works, but also filled with storms, trials. It's one that will have love and heartbreak, joy and grief, that won't always end well for you in some cases, and that there is going to be pain, and that there's going to be a beautiful story that you take part in. And it's difficult. Another weight of the understanding what God's existence means is to let go of control and stop focusing on yourself and stop chasing what you want to chase. You just let go of the control. Jesus, take the wheel. You know, like the song? Because once you recognize that God is the true author of your life, you'll realize that the story that he has written for you is beautiful and better than whatever nonsense that you had going on. I really hope that I got what the point I was trying to make here today across to you, and that I hope that you have something complex to think about tonight. And God bless you all for putting in time to watch a video like this and to try to answer tough questions and dive a little bit deeper in your own head and try to understand yourself and your connection with God better. I'm proud of you for getting to the end of this video. You're doing good, and wherever you go in life, I pray that you will go with God.